So guys, alright, now we are going to learn about this object oriented programming. Even though if you do not practice this object oriented programming, you at least you need to know how it works, because many exploits will contain some object oriented programming code. So in that way you need to understand that what are the functions in it, how to change some parameters and etc, and how to change the variables also. So these classes are like blueprint of some data, or like template of any members and the functions combined. Suppose if I have a college, and college contains some metadata like a number of buildings and number of benches and number of computers, number of fans, etc. So that is like a metadata or the blueprint of that class. So objects are like instances of that class. So a student is a object of the class, right? A class contains so many members, and each the class contains some properties like number of students and number of working days, etc. So for that class there are some objects. In here we use the students as an object, and this student contains some information like his first name, last name, and his attendance and his mark list, etc. So now let's go ahead and define a class, that is the student class. The class defines the properties that a student should have. To do that, you need to say class, let's say student, and what you want to do is want to say semicolon, sorry, colon. Now what you want to do is let's say for let's say pass now. So just I am not going to add any code here. Now what I want to do is I want to say s1 for student 1, let's say stu1 is equals to student, and now I want to say this over brackets. Now we can create the properties for the student one like this: stu1 dot first name is equals to, let's say, Nagar. Now we can say stu1 dot last name. Now this is the object. stu1 is the object of the student class, and this is the class variable, and this stu1 is called instance variable or object variable, and this object contains the a variable, and the first name it values is the value of this first name variable is Naga, and the last name is Sainikir. Now I can print these values. So let me go ahead and run this code. Now you will get the output as Sainikil, because that is the last name. So if I want to add another student details, I will say stu2 is equal to student, and I will add the properties of the student to like first name and last name. Let's say Acer, say Predator. Now I can simply just say stu1 to stu2 and to print the last name. So we got the Predator, which is the last name of the student 2. So manually adding all these variables like first name, last name, if you have 100 students, adding like this for every student is so much time consuming and very tedious task. So now what I want to do is I will define a constructor. So this constructor will get executed whenever a object is created for this class, and that constructor is defined by underscore underscore init. It also stands for initializing any data. Whenever I call this stu1 is equal to student, and this method will automatically gets executed. Now one must and should parameter you need to pass is self parameter. This self parameter or argument defines the owns object. So if I call stu1 is equals to student, then this function will execute under the student1 properties. So you will get understand within few minutes. Now I put colon and say I can also pass the first name and last name here. Let's say first comma last, and I can say self dot first name. See, we need to put the self before this class object variables, because stu1's first name is this one, right? I will just say first, and also self dot last name is equals to last. So now we want to pass this first name and last name in the student. So we are passing the two arguments Naga and Sai Nikhil, and these will be placed in this first and last variables, and this init function gets executed whenever we have created an object that is stu1, and this self refers to this stu1 object. So it will be stored as stu1 dot first name is equal to this first, and stu1 dot last name is equals to last. So let me create this student2, then you will get some more clarity. So the student2 details contains Lenovo and Legion, and this whenever this object is being created at this line, then this function gets executed, and Lenovo goes to this first variable and Legion goes to this last variable, and then we are assigning stu2 dot first name. We are referring the self objects, because this object is being created, this object will be placed here. Just think like that. stu2 dot first name is equals to first, and stu2 dot last name is equals to last. Now what I want to print is let's say normally stu1 dot first name, and also I will print the stu2 dot first name. So now let's run this, and you can see the first name Naga and Lenovo have been printed. So this is very efficient way of assigning values. So directly you can just adding in one line. It is very time saving and also space saving task. If you have 100 students, it will take only the 100 lines rather than adding all these variables. So now you can also define some functions. So let's also add pay, and you can also say self dot pay is equals to pay. So it's not a problem, they will not collide, because this object's variable is pay and this is normal pay variable. And what I can do is I can define some function which is increment of self, the self's objects increment function. So now I can say return self dot pay. So that object's pay variable, this is this one, and say into 10. So let's say pay for the student fees, let's say 100, and this one is 200. Now I want to say stu1 dot increment, and let's say stu2 dot increment. Now we will get the answers 1000 and 2000. So as you can see, we got the 1000 and 2000 because this 100 is going to be in the pay variable, and the self dot pay refers to this object's pay variable, which is 100. And then whenever we are calling increment, we need to pass the self, because this stu1's pay will be placed here. If I just say pay, it will be this space value. So pay is not defined because we need to define this in this local variable. It is local function, local variable to this local function. Now we will get the right answer. That's all for this video, guys. There is also like destructor which will execute after the objects got deleted. So that's all, just more than enough for this Python course, and we'll be developing some tools or writing our own tools in the next section. I mean, like, okay, in future section. So in that, this up to this videos are enough for making tools. And also if you see any other tool in the GitHub, you can easily understand by this, because you have learned this object oriented programming. Just even though these are the basics, you will definitely understand the code when you see that. So by understanding the code, you can just simply change the contents or the manual exploit. It will be very helpful in the manual exploitation. When you have the Python exploits, then you can just simply change, and you will get much more understanding about this manual exploitation.